Right, we're going to start with a partial victory for Manchester City in their legal challenge with the Premier League over commercial rules. An independent panel found that the league's associated party transaction rules were unlawful, but both sides are claiming victories after the 175-page ruling was made public. Chief reporter Kaveh Solokol has read it all, 175 pages, and joins me now, which is great, Kaveh. Thanks for doing that. Yes, you do get these documents, don't you? But, I mean, look, they have both issued bullish statements, haven't they? Both seem to be saying they've won. So how do we get there then?
Well, look, I think this all started back in 2021 when, if you remember, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund basically bought Newcastle United. Mm-hmm. If you remember what the public mood was like in the football world around that time, everybody was really, really worried because people thought this takeover was a game changer. We were going to have some of the richest people in the world owning Newcastle United. They could do all sorts of inflated sponsorship deals with Saudi companies to get money into Newcastle. Newcastle could use that money to buy Mbappe and Neymar and Ronaldo, and they would be the greatest ever Premier League team, and it would ruin the competitive balance in the Premier League. So what could clubs do to stop that happening? Well, one of the things they did is to introduce these associated party transaction rules, APT rules. Mm-hmm. And basically they're designed to make sure that any deals that a club does with a company connected to its own owners is fair market value.
Makes sense.
Now, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And these rules were amended in February, so some changes were made to them. And the changes were very, very controversial. Only 12 out of the 20 Premier League clubs voted in favour of them, but 2 clubs abstained, and that is why they were introduced. Now, Manchester City felt very strongly about this, and they took the unprecedented step of actually taking legal action against the Premier League. And today, they are saying that they have won. This is a very significant victory for them because they have proved that these rules are unlawful. They breach the UK's competition laws, and they are saying it is a wonderful day for them because they have secured this significant victory.
You've read the 175-page document. So what are the biggest wins, would you say, for Manchester City in that?
Well, I think first of all, 2 deals that they wanted to do with Etihad Airways and First Abu Dhabi Bank. What the tribunal have now said is that the Premier League have to look again at those 2 deals which were blocked. So that is very, very significant. And I think looking ahead as well, you've got the situation where potentially Manchester City could sue the Premier League and try and get compensation and say, look, some of these past deals that you have blocked have stopped us bringing this revenue into the club. And so you need to pay us compensation for that. But to get back to your question, I think what they were particularly unhappy with was when the rules were amended this February, the burden of proof was on clubs to prove that a deal was fair market value. So the clubs had to prove and say that this deal that we want to do is fair market value and put their signature to a document stating that. They felt that was unfair. That they have won on. Also, this is where it gets a little bit complicated because the Premier League have this data bank to work out what is fair market value. One of the things that is done independently at the Premier League is that when you submit a proposed deal, the Premier League can look at this data bank of past deals to work out what the going rate is for these kind of deals. So if you want to do a sponsorship deal with an airline company, you can look at this data bank and look, oh, this club did a deal with this airline company and this is how much it was worth. So this is the ballpark figure. Now, Manchester City's lawyers have proven that the Premier League's rules are procedurally unfair because clubs don't have access to the information in this data bank as well. And also, I think what is really, really significant is that Manchester City's lawyers argued successfully that the rules are unlawful because they do not take into account interest-free loans.
OK.
Now, interest-free loans are another way of owners putting money into their clubs. You know, as well as doing commercial deals, sponsorship deals, some may say some people have tried to do inflated sponsorship deals. It's much easier just to give your club an interest-free loan. And that is what a lot of clubs have done. So Manchester City's lawyers were arguing that interest-free loans should also be covered by these APT rules. So I think that is one of the most significant victories for them in this decision.
Yeah, where could you get an interest-free loan in this day and age? You couldn't. What's the Premier League's reaction? Because I said it before, you know, they're both quite bullish coming out of this. Where do they see they've won in this?
Well, I think, look, the Premier League's reaction would be that, look, overall, the tribunal has agreed and endorsed the objectives of our APT rules, the framework and the decision-making process behind them. So the tribunal has accepted that we should have these APT rules to try and ensure fair competition. But the Premier League would say the tribunal have found that there are a few small changes that we need to make, and we're going to go away and very, very quickly make those changes. So I think they wouldn't come out and say they've secured a significant victory today, but they would say that people's focus should be on the fact that the rules are staying.
Right.
Yeah. The tribunal did not decide that the rules are totally unlawful and need to be thrown into the bin. The tribunal have said, look, no, we accept why you have these rules, but you need to make a few changes to them, especially some of the amendments that you made in February. So that's what the Premier League are saying. I think it's worth just stating what Manchester City are saying, though. Manchester City are saying that they have succeeded in proving that the rules are unlawful. They are saying the rules violated UK competition law and the requirements of procedural fairness. They also say the Premier League was found to have abused its dominant position and the rules were found to be discriminatory in how they operate.
OK. Harsh words from them as well. Just finally then, if I can get the words out, where do we go from here? Excuse me. Sorry.
Well, I think from the Premier League's perspective, what they would say is that this is not a massive deal. We can quickly and effectively make the changes that the tribunal wants us to make to our rules, and that will be done very quickly. But of course, looking at it from the other point of view, you could say this is a very, very significant victory for Manchester City, because in central London right now, the hearing is going on into the alleged breach of 115 or 130 of the Premier League's financial rules by Manchester City. And Manchester City have, by securing this legal victory today, undermined the Premier League's financial rules. So they have got people thinking, you know, these financial rules, they're not really worth the paper they're written on. They've been written up too quickly, and they've challenged them and they've won, just like Leicester City won a legal challenge against the Premier League's financial rules a couple of weeks ago. And also what we need to look at is what effect is this going to have on the loans that owners have made to clubs. So I wouldn't downplay how significant the decision is today. I think it will have big implications for the Premier League and its financial rules. And also it'll be very intriguing to see what the atmosphere is like at the next Premier League shareholders meetings, because we found out today, for instance, that some clubs supported Manchester City, provided witness statements for them.
They do have friends, though, because a lot of the time Manchester City often say that they're...
Manchester City do have lots of friends. The clubs who were witnesses for them were Chelsea, Newcastle United and Everton. Whereas the Premier League, once Manchester City launched this legal challenge, asked for some clubs to provide written statements to support the Premier League's position. And we found out today that some of the clubs who did that who provided written statements defending the Premier League's position were, for instance, Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, West Ham United, Brentford, Bournemouth, Fulham and Wolves. So this is a very, very divisive issue. As you said, both sides are claiming a victory of sorts, but I think Manchester City will be much happier than the Premier League today.
Mancity versus Premier League hearing. Latest updates on 115 charges case and when there could be a verdict. The Premier League's case against Manchester City for multiple alleged competition rules breaches finally came before an independent panel in September 2024. English football's top division and the club that has won 6 of the past 7 league titles have been on this collision course since the Premier League issued a weighty charge sheet against City in February 2023. City have repeatedly denied all allegations made against them and claim a comprehensive body of irrefutable evidence exists in support of its position. The case is separate to City's legal challenge against the league's associated party transactions up rules.
League hearing. Latest updates, and when a verdict is expected. The hearing into the Premier League's Manchester City case began on Monday, September 16, 2024, at the International Dispute Resolution Centre in London. It is expected to last around 10 weeks. A 3-person panel selected by Murray, Rose and KC will hear evidence presented by lawyers representing City and the Premier League. The panel for such arbitration cases can include any of the 15 members of the Premier League's judicial panel, as well as non-members. The scope and complexity of the case is part of the reason why it has taken so long to reach this stage, whereas the PSA claims against Everton and Forest respectively were fairly straightforward. There is also the element of City's continued alleged non-cooperation with the Premier League, which forms a large chunk of the overall charges. The panel will have a vast array of evidence and testimony to consider before reaching a decision, which is not expected until early 2025. The wait may continue until the spring, but a verdict is anticipated before the end of the 2024-25 season. What are the 115 charges against Man City? At this stage, 115 is a catch-all, online banter staple for all things Manchester City. However, the Premier League's initial error-strewn publication of the charges, which featured sections and subsections of rules books from some seasons that did not apply to others, led to some confusion. One tallying up of the charges, subscribed to by The Times and the Sporting News, is that City are facing 130 alleged breaches. However, for the purposes of staying on brand, we'll go with the breakdown of the 115 charges as per BBC Sport and Sky Sports, which fall into 5 broad categories where Man City cleared by CAS. These areas of alleged wrongdoing will be familiar to anyone who followed UEFA's case against Manchester City. In February 2020, the reigning English champions were banned from continental competitions by European football's governing body for 2 seasons and fined €30 million for not cooperating with the investigation. City appealed their case at the Court of Arbitration for Sport and, in July 2020, they were cleared of disguising equity funding as sponsorship contributions, something that remains the main pillar of the Premier League's case. CAS upheld UEFA's conclusion that City failed to cooperate. The fine was cut from €30 to €10, but Pep Guardiola's February 2023 assertion that his club were found completely innocent was not exactly true. The CAS verdict said that City's failure to comply with the UEFA investigation was a severe breach and that they should be seriously reproached for obstructing the investigation.